Welcome to Nubiart Diary number 431 for the 6th of August 2020. Nubiart, a different perspective on the African world. First up in the August promos is To Know Without Knowing by Mulatu Astatke and Black Jesus Experience. This is out now on Agogo Records. The Black Jesus Experience are an Ethio jazz rap and funk collective who backed Mulatu Astatke when he tours in Australia. As such, they know how to get inside his pentatonic groove, and on their second album together they deliver up an irresistible boost to your mental and spiritual well-being in these troubled times. The Melbourne-based outfit can draw on musicians and lyricists from Australia, the Maori, Morocco, Zimbabwe and Ethiopia. The cover artwork is in the Ethiopian colours with icon images in each corner. The album opens with Mulatu, a tribute to the great man himself, the creator of Ethio jazz. It starts with a trumpet leading an Ethio groove. Then in a speeded up second half there is a rap from Monk over a guitar with vibraphone and horn arrangements. Ambasalemdi is a song in Amharic over a percussion bed which Inushutai learnt from her grandmother. The wedding song Kulun Mankwaleshi is one of the best examples here of the Ethio jazz Mulatu Astatke pioneered 6 decades ago. Living on Stolen Land is a brooding 10-minute track with rimshots, piano and bass, building a groove for lyrics that tell of dispossession, genocidal violence, theft of the sacred and ancient, preventing the indigenous owners of the land from grieving or memorializing their ancestors. The lyrics go, I got away with that bloody murder on the day he died. Ain't it grand, living on stolen land? The title track, To Know Without Knowing, is a funky Ethiopian groove with a jazz-funk flute-led second half. Lije is a song about the role of mothers. Lij means child in Amharic. Inushu sings of her child being the realization of her dream and her future. Monk replies with a child's ode to his mother, in which he gives all praises due to Queen Sheba. On Blue Light, Monk delivers a future-conscious style rap that reminded us of Nas at his finest. Maskaram Setaba is what Mulatu would have grown up calling and playing as rumba, powerful Latin percussion alongside jazzy piano. A Chance to Give closes the album with a piano and vibraphone groove that cements the generational development of Ethio jazz. The second album is Siti of UNGUJA, Romance Revolution on Zanzibar by Siti Muharam, and it's on the Corner record label, and it's also out now. Siti Muharam delivers an hypnotic album of spiritual music for the mind and body. Here she is updating the legacy, lyricism and odyssey of the mother of Tarab, her great-grandmother Siti Binti Saad, with production and studio overdubs by Sam Jones. He has captured the eclecticism of Zanzibar's Swahili street culture, often laid over the percussive kidumbak. Siti Binti Saad was born in 1890 in the small fishing village of Fumba on UNGUJA, the main island of the Zanzibar archipelago, to parents who had been freed from enslavement. B. Kadude worked to keep Siti Binti Saad's legacy alive using some of her distinct scales. It was Andy Jones who filmed B. Kadude's life and music who tipped off the production team here that one of Siti Binti Saad's descendants with a golden voice, Siti Muharam, was carrying on her traditions. They first met at the Dow Country's Music Academy, and the tracks were recorded over 10 days through the assistance of Fumba Town Development, which is providing sustainable homes to a new generation on Zanzibar, built in line with the principles of permaculture. Isa Matona acted as the musical director on the project. The album opens and sets out its stall with the Tarab groove of Mashosi Yahuba. Next up, Sikatiko is a track oozing with old-school Tarab culture-style strings to the fore over a percussive bed. This is followed by Pakistan, one of the most popular tracks since the album's release. Nuke is a song Siti Muharam inherited from her father and is one of our favourites here. Kijiti is a more sedate tarab, with call and response and with the bass prevalent in the mix. Alaminadura is a blend of mesmeric strings, woozy synth and percussion. Ashi Kibeya, Sam Jones' construct, was released as a 7-inch single and features Tama Kolokuta. It is a percussion-led cosmic tarab groove with a dubby mix reaching out into the trade winds. The other side of the single was the instrumental Mandira featuring Isa Matona. It closes an engrossing and spiritually uplifting album that will leave you feeling energized and recommitting your travel wish list to include Zanzibar, a truly fascinating land with people whose music, songs and poetry will touch your soul. Siti said of the project, "This record is deeply personal and yet tells a history. Take Nyuki, which was my father's song, who himself was a student of Siti Binti Saad, learnt her scales and her way with melody. On Siti's of UNGUJA we found the original feeling, the melodies, the way that she innovated and connected tarab to the people. The past has helped us find a future sound so a new generation can go with the groove whilst carrying the method." On to the August media. This is Visual Verse, a creative tribute to Gambian British artist Khadija Seh, and it's available by Visual Verse. It's volume 7, chapter 9, which is for July the 20th. You can check those details online and something should definitely come up. No Justice by Jane Docherty. There is injustice in the world. No need to look to far-flung places. Peek beneath the bundle of rags in a corner of the spice market. There is injustice everywhere. Developers develop their own portfolios, their bank balances, and let the people slip between the shifting banknotes. Fire burns the slipshod building, the young and the talented, the old and infirm, the frightened children who slip from the grasp of rescuers, though never the men, who turn away folding bills and contracts putting on their shades and slipping away discreetly until the dust settles. Close your eyes and dream of the world that might have been, its birdwing colours, sun on waves, and distant hilltops while we weep and sweep up the ash of injustice. In solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and to mark the 3rd anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire, which in 2017 claimed the lives of 72 people in London, Visual Verse brings you 92 poems, articles and reflections in remembrance of the Gambian British artist Khadija Seh and the other Grenfell victims. The starting point for this edition is one of Khadija's images and the idea of inspiration from the Latin spirare, to breathe. Inspiration as breath, as life, as hope, and as a human right. The world has been resounding to the phrase, "I can't breathe," uttered by African people who have suffered institutional brutality. These include Jimmy Mubenga in 2014, whose head was held down by G4S security guards whilst on a plane, Shekubayo in 2015, who suffered positional asphyxiation by the police after they sprayed CS gas in his face and held him down. "I can't breathe" were the words of Eric Garner in New York in 2014 as he died from a police chokehold, and George Floyd in Minnesota on May the 25th, 2020, who died with a police knee in his neck. The phrase also resonates terribly with the reality of the Grenfell Tower fire. "We can't breathe" were among the last words of nursery teacher Nadia Chukea as she called emergency services from her 22nd floor flat that night. The survivors of Grenfell are still awaiting justice, while the official inquiry refuses to recognise the systemic racism of social inequality and institutional response as contributing to the disaster. The death of George Floyd and the anniversary of the fire fell during the lockdown for a pandemic that affects our breathing, our lungs, and is most disproportionately taking the lives of the poorest from African countries. Suffocation by Eric Zoa. With decades, no centuries of prejudice, they couldn't breathe. With offensive speeches from Powell to Johnson, they couldn't breathe. With oppressive, conservative, hostile environment, they couldn't breathe. With combustible Grenfell cladding, tragically, they couldn't breathe. With human civil rights and basic equality denied, they couldn't breathe. With low-status jobs and genetic ethnicity in COVID-intensive care units, they couldn't breathe. Inequality kills. I can't breathe. And the next poem, Choking by Mary C. McCarthy. Infected, fighting for breath, against an enemy, blind, invisible, indifferent, that pushes me to exhaustion with each contested inhalation. I think of all lost in the battle against an enemy, neither blind nor invisible, but there for every camera and every witness to record, enforcing hate with the weight of every knee on the throat of one more black life, unable to escape, repeating, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. The image of Khadija Say, which is the central theme of all the poems in visual verse, is from the self-portrait series Dwelling in the Space We Breathe, which was on display at 236 Westbourne Grove in London. It was an outdoor exhibition. She was also known as Yahadi Sisi, and she was a Gambian British photographer whose work was exhibited in the Diaspora Pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 2017. She was killed aged 24 in Grenfell Tower alongside her mother, for whom she was a carer. The British Library was due to show this exhibition in spring 2020 and has now postponed it until a later date due to COVID-19 restrictions. Funds raised through the online publishing of this edition of Visual Verse will be shared between Justice for Sheku Bayo. 5 years after Sheku Bayo's killing at the hands of Scottish police in Kirkcaldy, not one officer has been disciplined, let alone charged with his murder. This campaign is raising funds to support legal costs for Sheku's family as they continue to fight for justice. Another beneficiary will be the United Families and Friends campaign. All funds donated here go towards all family campaigns for those relatives who are members of UFFC, which is open to all families and friends whose loved ones have been violated and died at the hands of the state. And the third beneficiary will be Injustice UV. The film Injustice was named the most important British documentary of my professional lifetime by Peter Bradshaw, the Guardian film critic. The director, Ken Farrell, was one of the founders of UFFC. This is a crowdfunder for the second Injustice film, which will again follow the struggles for justice of families in Britain whose loved ones have been killed by the police. So we move to the fourth poem, Insight by Steffi S. The twists and turns in your headdress reflect the challenges you so beautifully embraced, like a queen conquering cultures. Even time stopped to admire you overcoming your obstacles. As you thrived and jumped above the prejudice of the world, your amulet bounced to your tune, from your neck onto your eyes, covering them so your soul could savour your journey from Gambia to Grenfell in a snapshot. But in a moment you bid goodbye, forever closing your eyes, leaving behind a legacy for the world to see. You also told your story through moments sculpted by light, in a world where judgment is clouded by sight. You reminded us to close our eyes and observe with insight. And we'll close with the poem Turandot by the literary activist Khadija Sese, FRSA, which actually opens the collection. This Khadija Sese, is the founder-publisher of Sable Lit Mag, Sable Lit Fest, and the co-founder of the Mboka Festival of Arts, Culture and Sport in the Gambia, and she was involved in the Khadija Say exhibition. Khadija Sesi is also the cousin of Sheku Bayo, the Sierra Leonean man who was murdered by the police in Kirkcaldy, Scotland. That case is ongoing with an inquiry into how racism played a role in his killing. So this is Turandor by Khadija Sesi for Khadija Se. They haunt me, your eyes, that expose much more than flesh. Aren't you scared, namesake? Dress, lips, ears, eyes closed under sacred words sewn up. Yet you see everything. You have seen, but I do not want to see. Gizanga wae gumbo. You wear terry like a scholar hides precious words in miniature books. Body, nose, cheeks, black. You see colour we can't see. You are still namesake. Speak the unspoken, show the unseen. Walu kandol wa wane luken gisul. And that rounds up the August media section. We'll move on to lyrics and spirits. O ye gods of the underworld, who set yourself up against me, and who resist the mighty ones, the stars which never set have led me on my way. Chapter 78 from the Papyrus of Ani. This is a poem by me. It's called RAGGADREAD. When we first met, I thought you were heaven sent. Now every conversation seems to lead to an argument. You can't accept what I know to be right. You judge me by the standards of your own dirty foreign mind. Accuse me first of things you yourself do wrong, but when the charge turns back on you, you'll come and sing another song. I never did all those things you told your friends I did. You run me down falsely, so the roof must deepen. 'Cause I'm a man with only good intentions, a youth who knows respect. I man don't waste time trouble in the slackness. Don't treat me so suspect. I'll try and respect you as long as it's due, but when it stops due and fall like rain for you, that's a cue. Not for that feeling to be reciprocated. Instead, a weakness you see in me can come to your advantage. A chance for you to teach me a few lessons. But if you can't take the possible answers, don't ask the questions. You'll get respect and honour and all that is true. Just cut out the confusion. Is that too simple for you? 'Cause I'm a man with only good intentions, a youth who knows respect. I man don't waste time trouble in the slackness. Don't treat me so suspect. It was a pick-up in the middle of the night. Come back to your place and everything will be alright. But you didn't trust me, you only wanted relief. The story of my life you don't want to believe, because it shatters your ideals and makes you feel insecure. Next time you feel a way about someone, you could never be sure. So you assault me and insult me, call me all kinds of names. But we live by our deeds and not by what you assume. And that was written back in December 1988, and it's available in my book No Sympathy, which has also got 3 short stories by me, and that came out in 1996. Okay, that brings us to the end of this edition of the Nubiart Diary Arts. If you want to get in touch with us, it's Kobara Zamani, African Quest, PO Box 35165, London SE5 8WU. The email africanquest1@hotmail.com, and Twitter @Nubiart Diary. And we'll just close with our saying, talk sense, or it don't make sense you talk. Guidance.